Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy Halloween. In honor of the holiday, we will be wearing our masks the entire time. I thought about preaching about masks this morning. I thought the irony is just too rich. But welcome to the Gloucester Unitarian Universalist Church. Our congregation was first gathered in 1779 by a small group of courageous people who were dedicated to their belief in a radical, saving message of a God who loved everyone. We're enjoying being back together again in our 1806 church building, and we're very glad to have you all with us here this morning. We are a warm and welcoming community devoted to spiritual growth, social transformation, and care of our wider community and the natural world. I'd especially like to welcome visitors this morning. If you're visiting us and you'd like to learn more about our community life or just to get connected, we invite you to fill out one of the yellow cards that are located on the backs of the pews, or you can sign the guest book in the vestibule, and you can leave your yellow card in the collection plate as you leave, and somebody will be in touch with you. As a welcoming congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, we welcome the full inclusion of people of all sexual orientations and gender expressions. Today, we are commemorating All Souls, which is November 2nd, and we remember today with gratitude and love all those who have gone before us. So I'm very grateful to Carl Frank from our music and liturgy team, who has guided the planning of this service and who will be offering a homily. In addition, Steve Lacey is here with us this morning, and in addition to his usual music, he will be leading us in a sound healing meditation using his collection of singing bowls. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And following the service, I invite you to come up and look at the bowls, maybe get a personal demonstration. But thank you, Steve. And finally, if you haven't looked too far into your order of service, I wanted to announce that the Board of Trustees has voted to approve singing one hymn in our services. And so this morning, we are going to sing a closing hymn together for the first time since March 15th, 2020. Now, in order to do this safely and in honor of Halloween, we need everybody to keep your masks on while singing. And now Lucille LePage has a few announcements.
Good morning. Good morning. Just a few announcements. Our service is being live streamed this morning. We switched from Zoom to live streaming on our own YouTube channel. The cameras are placed to maximize privacy and minimize disruption. You can see them on either side of the sanctuary, near the front, and the main video camera is up in the gallery behind the clock. For anyone watching from home, we invite you to have a candle or chalice and matches ready so that when we light the chalice to begin our service in a few minutes, we can join together in spirit. We remind everyone to please see the weekly email announcements for more information, as usual. We continue to add back to the service elements from our traditional service. As we practiced it before a year and a half ago. Hopefully you have received an order of service on your way in the door. We started doing that, I think, last week. And we will also be taking up a traditional collection this morning with ushers. Flowers are very welcome each week. If you're interested in donating flowers, please contact Christine in the church office. Today's flowers were donated by Jerry Ackerman in memory of his wife, Carol, whom we miss very much, and whose birthday would be today, Halloween. Next Sunday, we'll have a celebration of the life of our dear late member, Ann Stracher. Ann's memorial service will take place here in the sanctuary at 1 p.m. next Sunday, with a reception to follow downstairs in the vestry. Everyone is encouraged to attend. The service will also be viewable on Zoom. Reverend Janet is offering a series of both in-person and virtual meditation sessions. This coming Wednesday at 4 p.m., we'll be offering an online meditation session on Zoom. Zoom link will be coming in your email on Tuesday. And now, let us deepen our hearts and our spirits for worship.
Our opening words this morning are by the Reverend Matthew Johnson. For 5,000 years or more, human beings have been invoking spiritual power. Ancestors have gathered together to make sense of their lives and their place in the cosmos. And they have spoken aloud and invited all that is sacred and powerful to be with them. They called upon the spirits of air and earth, fire and water. They sang songs they learned from their grandparents, and they moved in the appointed ways or in ways that were new, but felt like the right thing to do. And they imputed power to those spirits. They called them gods, and they were invoked. Every group of people, everywhere, gathered to make sense of their lives and to make sense of their place in the cosmos. And they called these spirits to be present to them. And so do we. So do we gather this morning. We invoke that power which we sometimes forget about. We forget that we are part of the whole of creation. We forget that we are stardust. We forget that we are capable of miracles, first among them, that we can love. We forget these things, so we invoke the power of existence so that we can remember, so we can lift our eyes and open our ears to the true and the beautiful. For 5,000 years or more, we have done this. In many tongues, in many ways, we have done this. Let us continue this ancient tradition in our way and in our time. Come, let us worship together. We make sacred our shared time this morning by kindling the flame of our Unitarian and Universalist legacies. May our chalice and its flame keep us mindful of the liberal traditions that we are called to nurture and to carry forward. If you have a candle or a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with us now. We take a moment now to affirm the covenant that we share with one another. The words can be found in your order of service or on the white cards in the pews. And if you're joining us from home, it was included in the order of service that was emailed on Friday. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Now it's working. Okay. This reading comes from a rather grimly humorous book, recently translated from German. It's entitled The Capital, and it's a kind of a spoof on life in the capital of the European Union. In it, one character who's important is an elderly man, recently retired, a Holocaust survivor. This is probably the grimmest part of the book, but this is the most beautiful. His name is David de Vrend. He likes to walk in the Brussels graveyard, which is right next door to his old folks' home. It was only a few steps from his old people's home on Rue de Arbre to the main gate of the cemetery. The icy cold, the gray sky, the wrought iron gate, these reassured him. It reassured him to see birds, crows, and sparrows. Again and again, he stopped in front of a grave, read the names, looked at the enameled photos. He liked going to cemeteries. He thought it was nice that people had graves with their names on them. People who had died and who could nevertheless, in this way, be visited. He saw the graves of children, of people who had died very young, of illnesses, accidents, or had been murdered, tragic fates, but they had a grave. As long as there were cemeteries, there was the promise of civilization. His parents, his brother, his grandparents had graves in the air. No place to visit, to look after, no place to put a stone, no resting place. Just a lingering unrest that could not find a place of peace. In the memory that would die with him, there was only one picture of his family, taken with his last glance. And that was not even a picture. It was just a memory of a fact, and that he never saw them again. Then he saw a gravestone on which was carved, "Tout passe, tout s'efface." Everything passes, everything vanishes. He paused, looking a long time at this inscription. He bent down, picked up a pebble, and placed it on this grave.
I invite us now into a time of remembrance, opening with the words of Reverend Edward Searle, who captures the essence of this time of year. These are the days of memory. It has always been so for our kind. After the leaves have fallen, the nights are long, and in the darkness, we remember. These are the days of reflection. The long horizontal rays of the afternoon sun spill across the earth with the golden light of memory. A chilling breeze at twilight stirs the ground cover of leaves, stirring also our thoughts. The elusive beauty of red sunsets we would hold if only we could. But darkness seeps from below the horizon. Day turns into dusk, into night. So we remember. In our minds, in the golden light of memory, we affirm the eternal beauty of the lives of those who have died and the goodness of the days that were. These are the days of memory, of reflection, of affirmation. It has always been so for our kind after the leaves have fallen. So we will pause now to remember those who have gone before us. Dear family members, spouses and partners and children, beloved friends, including our animal companions, teachers, mentors, people who showed us the way, people who truly cared for us. All those who inspired us and left legacies of love and justice and mercy, and those from among us in this community, those who have died in the past year, and those we hold in very tender memory. As we heard in Carl's reading a moment ago, we are so often drawn to the permanence of stone when we face our losses, our grief. And so in a moment, I will invite anyone who wishes to come forward, take a pebble from the table, and place it into the bowl of water that's right here. And while you place your pebble, please say the name of a loved one who you are missing this morning. The microphone is set up so that you can speak the name of the person you wish to honor.
I want to begin by speaking the names of the members of the congregation who we have lost this past year. And that is Ann Strasha, Linda Riley, and Charlotte Lacey. May their memories join with the memories of all the cloud of witnesses, the cloud of ancestors who have gone before us, who have loved and nurtured this congregation. And now I invite each of you, if you wish, to come forward, place a stone in the water, and we will move that so that you can be heard. It's on.
My mentor, Carol Christ, and my father, Edward Sherwood. My beautiful mother, Marion. My beautiful mother, Marion Francois. Deb's brother, David Hardy.
I had a paper on it. Can I look at your paper? Somebody took my paper.
Carol, and many, many, many others.
Can I look at your papers? I need a paper. You took my papers.
My sister-in-law, Carol Peck. And many others. Thank you.
In happy memory of Brother Roger, who passed in August.
Maria and Mario Cortina.
My wonderful parents, Romeo LePage and Annette Saint-Amour LePage.
My strong sister Diana Burkholder and my loving mother Helen Burkholder.
My hardworking mother, Marie Hildebrand.
my dear friend Alan Greenleaf.
My lifelong partner, Doris, and two of her best friends, my father, Charles, and Grace Masiri.
May the memories of all those named here and the lives that they led be a blessing. And may all those who miss them feel at peace as we enter into a time of silence. Amen.
When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps his purse shut. When death comes like the measles pox. When death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades. I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, toward silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride, married to amazement. I was a bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world.
Okay. Looks quite different from up here. A little more intimidating. What graveyards are to me. When asked if I would deliver a homily today in a service where we would be commemorating the dead, I knew I had some ideas about those things, more particularly about graveyards. I had recently read Robert Manasseh's The Capitol and had marked the passage I read earlier, even before I took on this task of doing this homily. So I figured I could do this, and here it is. Not everyone here knows me, and among those who do, fewer still will know about my connection with cemeteries. It started in the 1970s, when I was in my 30s. I was in a period of relative poverty, during which I worked part-time at lots of things, full-time at none. One of those things was mowing the grass at a local cemetery. It was a time when I needed help, and among the friends who helped me was Sally Waite's first husband, Richard Coram. He told me the cemetery at the Universalist Church in town needed someone to cut the grass, and he told me who to call. I got the job. One day, while I was out mowing, along with my son Max, if I remember correctly, someone from the church came out to talk with me. There was going to be a burial the next week. And as the church considered me their groundskeeper, I was expected to open the grave. That's professional cemetery talk for digging the hole. they would pay $50. In rural Vermont in the 1970s, the idea of hiring a backhoe to do a burial was a Flatlander absurdity. From the ensuing experience, I can report that the depth was 5 feet, not 6 as you will have often heard, and that the Universalist cemetery, and with sort of Yankee practicality, kept a rusty iron bed frame in the tool shed to serve as a template for cutting the surf to the right size. 36 years after my work for the Universalist graveyard in Vermont, involvement in Gloucester's Mount Pleasant Cemetery took my relationship to cemeteries to a deeper level. I was retired and not in need of work when this part of my life began with the death of my wife, Joan. Before I carry on, let me explain that because Sally Waite and I are happily married, I avoid talking about Joan as my first wife. I don't because it seems to imply that we divorced, and we didn't. In fact, when Joan died, it was just 5 months after our 50th wedding anniversary. Joan did not die unexpectedly, but nevertheless suddenly. She woke up on a Monday morning experiencing a brain hemorrhage. She had had a minor incident like that half a year before, and that's why it wasn't totally unexpected. As she was wheeled away in a gurney at Addison Gilbert Hospital, her last words were, "Don't be afraid." On my way home from the hospital, I ran into a friend. He noticed my stricken appearance and asked how I was doing. I just took Joan to the hospital, and she's never coming back. That's what I said. I knew already that it would be so. Joan died 2 days later without recovering consciousness. I always knew Joan was opposed to regular burial, and after there's a death, suddenly there are all these practical things that you must do despite your state of mind. So my first job was to arrange for cremation so I could tell the hospital where to take her body. 2 days after Joan's death, son Max came to visit. He said, "Dad, I'm here to help you move Mom's things out of your bedroom. It will not be good for you to keep going to bed every night and getting up every day with her empty bed next to yours and her clothes in the dresser next to your dresser and in the closet next to your closet." Max proved to be a good advisor. Together we carried out Joan's bed, her dresser, her clothes on hangers from her closet, the lingering signs of her personal presence in the bedroom had become instruments of depression for me. With them gone, I felt myself thinking about what I could do to incorporate her passing into my life without her. This is where a cemetery comes back into the story. But in a way, my experience with memory and grief is already part of the cemetery story. The house which was Joan's and mine, and where Sally Waite and I now live, is 200 paces from a cemetery, the almost 200-year-old Mount Pleasant Cemetery. I walk through it most every day. I'm one of those people who likes to count things, and so I'm not making it up when I say it's 200 paces from my home. On the far side of this cemetery, across Mount Pleasant Avenue, is a building in which I rent a workspace. I use it as a shop and a studio. That's why I walk through the cemetery almost every day. After clearing Joan's personal things from the bedroom, and I was again walking through the cemetery almost daily, that was when the idea struck me that I wanted to have a gravestone there for her, just as David Dufresne says in the reading. I wanted a stone with Joan's name on it, one that would be of a kind that she would have approved. I saw that she did not need to be buried there for a gravestone to do its job for me. A stone would relocate my thoughts of her to a ceremonial place, the cemetery, where it was appropriate and healthy, away from my bedroom and not part of the everyday scene. A headstone would be a thing I had made, or it had made, after her death to memorialize her in a spot and in a way that our culture had bequeathed to me as a way of dealing with death. So it was I bought a cemetery plot and started a search for just the right gravestone, one that I could, in my mind, explain to her as to why I thought she would have liked it, and which was purpose-made as a durable object, granite and bronze, to be a ceremonial object connected with my memories of her, but not a thing of her own that she had ever seen, owned, or touched. I found one man still quarrying Cape Ann granite, the dark gray, coarse granite that is not in vogue in the memorial stone industry. This man himself, seemingly locally sourced, like his work product, worked alone back of Lanesville. He cut me a piece just the right size. On it, I put a bronze casting I had made, or I'd had made, with her name and her words, "Don't be afraid." By means of this stone, and with the help of the cemetery itself, as a gathering place for other such memorials, her death was domesticated, rendered benign, a part of my life. The cemetery gave her a ceremonial home. Most importantly, not inside the house where I lived now with Sally Waite. Not a thing Joan had lived with and left behind. The stone gave her young grandchildren a place to leave messages for her. They even spontaneously found nice pebbles and put them on the grave, just as David DeVrend had done in Brussels. When they went there, I had the feeling that Joan was teaching them about life through the granite reminder that even beloved grandmothers die. Later, I happened to read Robert Manasseh's novel, The Capitol, where I found David DeVrend's soliloquy on gravestones in memory. I understood it immediately. And I marked it, even though at that time I didn't have any idea of using it in this service. So, gravestones enable us to pay a friendly visit to people who died. Now, we're almost at the end, but there is a coda, a short coda. A year later, I got a call from the neighborhood association from which I had bought Joan's grave lot. The president asked if I would be willing to serve on their board of trustees. The cemetery as lawns, a natural piece of ground, trees and gravestones, was now revealed to me as depending upon the corporate law of Massachusetts. It is a 501c nonprofit corporation, an artificial thing of human construction that would go out of existence unless interested volunteers could be found annually with the skills and the time to keep it going. The Mount Pleasant Cemetery Association, Inc., had an endowment, always shrinking because invested in local bank accounts at a tiny fraction of a percent. It was on a course for bankruptcy. I decided to do what I could to turn it around. So I became the treasurer and effectively the manager of a cemetery. I sometimes open graves, but only for cremation urns, work which can be done with a spade and by an 80-year-old. For a full burial, I call in a backhoe, for which these days I find the running rate is $400. We can now afford it. The recent fashion, throwing the ashes of our beloved dead to the winds or seas, once seemed a romantic gesture to me. Now I wonder, is it not a way to make lives disappear without a trace? In any case, it's not my choice. I ally myself with granite and bronze.
We gather here in this sacred and beautiful space this morning, grateful to all those who came before us, who made this church possible through their generosity and their commitment. We give to carry our church forward into the future and to support all of our work in the wider world. Our offering this morning will now be gratefully received. Blessings upon the givers and upon your gifts.
These are days of memory, of reflection, of affirmation. It has always been so for our kind after the leaves have fallen. And now may the peace which passes understanding, the peace that comes with acceptance and gratitude, the peace of love known and love remembered, be with you today and every day. Blessed be. Amen. And now, I'm not sure I can say it. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, When the Saints Go Marching In. There's 3 verses printed in your order of service. Steve will give us a little intro to get us started because we are all out of shape after almost 20 months. Us now to say the words to extinguish our chalice. Folks at home can blow out their candles as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace and return in love. Amen.